Hello, hello. I think we've got one person watching right now, which is Vidhu. Vidhu, I'm going to need you to comment in the box. Let me know you can hear me okay. Oh, people are trickling in. You're all very prompt. I like this. Namaskar. Do comment in the box. Let me know who you are, where you're joining us from. Very importantly, I will need to know what's in your coffee mug this morning. What's fueling you through this writing session? Mine is actually just hot water. I did have a lovely cup of Yorkshire tea earlier. That caffeine is hopefully running through my bloodstream right now. Keep me going. Hi, Shiv. Nice to see you here. Lots of people trickling in. Good. I'm glad you can hear me. That was my biggest worry. As anybody who knows me knows, I don't actually use Facebook. I have created a Facebook profile just to do this workshop with you today. So I hope you feel suitably privileged. People coming in. Oh, Jai is incoming. Excellent. I think that I was going to say if this goes well. Either way, if it goes terribly, I think a nice cup of masala chai is what I'm going to treat myself to after the workshop is done. But for now, I'll just stick to my water, keep my pipes nice and clear for you all. So as you may have seen in the description at the top, bringing a little bit of a twist to today's session. We try and do something different with you every week, and I know that my fellow network member Bhavin did an excellent job last weekend. And today the theme is going to be children's voices. So not children's books necessarily, but just the voices of children in books, and using those as a prompt for some creativity from all of us. We've got a few more people. I'm going to give it another couple of minutes to let people trickle in. Vidhu, I'm loving that you posted the Union flag, the UK flag. I like to think that's because, like me, you were tuned to the alternative Eurovision programming last night, and just flying the flag for the UK. But I suspect you might be slightly cooler than me and did not spend approximately 4 hours of your evening watching Eurovision related content. I'm not embarrassed by this, I'd just like to say. I had a great evening. I actually think for once the UK might not have got nul point, but it wasn't meant to be. So people still trickling in. I'm just going to give it another minute or so. We've got a couple of messages. Everyone else needs to start telling me what they're drinking this morning. I know we've got some chai on the go. What else? Has anybody got any rocket fuel? Nice strong coffee on the go? Anything more exciting? It's a nice day today. It's turning into quite a warm day, certainly here in the UK. So if everyone's made themselves a fresh fruit smoothie or something for a change, let me know. Okay. So I make it about 10:05. So I'm just going to make a start to the session. So first of all, introduce myself. I'm Vibhuti, Vib, as most people call me, and I've been involved with Dattva, our writing network, since its inception a few years ago. I came on board as a mentor for the authorship program that we run, which has been incredibly rewarding. Some really amazing writers have come through that. Not just saying that because some of them are watching right now. And currently, as part of Dattva, I am acting as editor-in-chief for our first big anthology project called Beyond the Bindi, which is all about stories to do with feminism, femininity, womanhood, through the lens of the British Hindu experience. Do check us out. If you just look for Beyond the Bindi online, you'll find us, and you can find information through the Tattva page as and when it happens. If someone's got a story to tell, then you can submit your interest as well. So please do that. And I am a scientist by training, so writing is a bit of a hobby, although I do a certain amount of communication type work in my current job, which is supporting research at the University of Cambridge. So that's a little bit about me. So the session, I've just seen in the comments, someone's asking what was the result. Well, Eurovision didn't actually happen, Rax, because of the current pandemic situation. They couldn't actually have the show. So it's a bit more of just a celebration of some of the best bits of Eurovision. There's no voting. Although in a show by the BBC, the UK public did vote ABBA's Waterloo as the best ever Eurovision performance. No surprise there. Anyway, back to the writing. So the way today's going to work, if you've been to our sessions before, and I can see some familiar names, this is a sort of a guided writing session to help get your creativity flowing. And I'm going to give you some prompts. And the idea being that hopefully you're all sat there, as well as with your cup of tea or coffee or whatever, you've got a pen and a pad of paper, or maybe a device where you're typing. I like the pen and paper thing is quite nice though. There's something nice about doing it in an analog way like that. And when I've given you the prompts, you'll have a certain amount of time to write. And the idea is to just keep writing. It won't be more than about between 3 and 6 minutes absolute maximum. And for that whole time, I want you to keep writing. Even if you're writing the same word or the same phrase over and over again, the idea is to keep writing. And that by the end of this, you'll have a whole block of writing that you've done from the various prompts that have been given. And some of it might be absolute rubbish and you might never want to see it ever again. Some of it you might look at and think, oh, that's interesting. I could turn that into something. I could make something more of that. Or it might inspire you to then go on and write something else. Maybe you'll see something that somebody else comments about, and that will inspire you to go off and write something else. So the idea is to just kind of generate creativity, get some words down on a page that can help you build something from later on. So, as I said, the theme for today is children's voices. Now, I don't have children, so this is not about me raiding, my kid's bookshelf or anything like that. But while I was doing some research to try and prepare for this session, I found a couple of things that made me think was quite interesting, that the voices of children in books and the perspective of children in books is really something quite special. And there's a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination when you look at things from the perspective of the child. And so that's the theme for today. So if you do have children with you, get them involved, get them to get a pen and a piece of paper, because this is absolutely something that they can participate in as well. So I'm going to start with a slightly longer piece. I'm going to read an excerpt from a book to act as a prompt. And then I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to just write. So whatever is prompted by the piece that I'm going to read out, I just want you to write, pen to paper, and just keep writing. So this actually is from a children's book. And the thing that I like about this is that it's effectively mainly dialogue. I think dialogue is really powerful in terms of understanding people's voices, because you can say so much more and you can understand so much more than if you just wrote a big, long, descriptive piece of prose. So here we go. I'm going to read a piece, and then I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to just write. Okay. Mummy, said Jeremy James, there's an elephant sitting on Daddy's car. Yes, dear, said Mummy. Mummy, why is the elephant sitting on Daddy's car? I expect it's tired, dear. It'll probably get up and go away soon. Well, it hasn't, said Jeremy James 2 minutes later. It hasn't got up. The car's gone down, but the elephant hasn't got up. Mummy, do you think I ought to tell Daddy? No, leave your father, said Mummy. You know he hates being interrupted while he's working. Well, there's an elephant sitting on his car, said Jeremy James. And the car doesn't look very happy about it. Jeremy James, said Mummy, elephants don't sit on cars. Well, this one does. Elephants don't sit on cars. If Mummy says elephants don't sit on cars, elephants don't sit on cars. But they don't. Finished. Now play with your toys. Okay. There we go. That's your first prompt. Pen to paper. Right. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes for that. Anything you like. Carry on the conversation, maybe, between Jeremy James and his mum. Daddy's working, apparently. Tell me more about Daddy. Mummy seems a bit distracted at the beginning. She's not really listening to what he's saying. I mean, I certainly think I'd pay more attention if someone told me an elephant was sat on a car. What's going on with Mummy? What about the elephant? Where did the elephant come from? Why is it sitting on Daddy's car outside? Just right. And if you write anything that you're particularly happy with, you think is quite interesting, then pop it in the comments section so that other people can see. It'd be really great to share what ideas this is sparking from people. This is actually an excerpt from a children's book. This is from a children's book, and it's this book right here called Elephants Don't Sit on Cars, and it was published back in 1977. And I just remember reading it as a kid and really loving it. And a few years ago, a friend of mine managed to find a copy of it on eBay, and she bought it for me as a Christmas present, which was very nice of her. But yeah, you've got about a minute and a half left. I'm just going to read it again. I'm just going to read the dialogue again, just to help get those creative juices flowing. Mummy, said Jeremy James, there's an elephant sitting on Daddy's car. Yes, dear, said Mummy. Mummy, why is the elephant sitting on Daddy's car? Expect it's tired, dear. It'll probably get up and go away soon. Well, it hasn't, said Jeremy James 2 minutes later. It hasn't got up. The car's gone down, but the elephant hasn't got up. Mummy, do you think I ought to tell Daddy? No, no, leave your father, said Mummy. You know he hates being interrupted while he's working. Well, there's an elephant sitting on his car, said Jeremy James, and the car doesn't look very happy about it. Jeremy James, said Mummy, elephants don't sit on cars. Well, this one does. Elephants don't sit on cars. If Mummy says elephants don't sit on cars, dear, then elephants don't sit on cars. But they don't. Finish. Go play with your toys. Okay. So, tap away. Oh, we've got the first. Oh, that's really nice, Shiv. Aw, Shiv's gone very deep with this. Shiv's telling us a lot about what's happening with Jeremy James and what's going on with him. I like that. I feel quite sad for Jeremy James now. Do post what else you're writing about Jeremy James, about Mummy, about Daddy, about the elephant that's sitting on Daddy's car, about the car. It's going to give you another few seconds. Tell me what you can. All right, do post. I like that. We've just had a comment in saying that it highlights the modern busy lives of families. Not enough time. Yes, Mummy did seem a bit distracted, didn't she? Not really enough time to listen to the story about the elephant sat on the car. But I suspect Daddy might have something to say when he sees the elephant, the damage that the elephant has done to the car later on. Okay. So that was our slightly longer prompt. What we're going to do now is a little bit quicker. So I'm just flicking through my phone to set us a timer. I'm going to give you some shorter prompts now, so just a few words long. And in keeping with the theme of the session, these are all what I would call children's voices, or the perspective of children from books, but what you write is not restricted by that. I'm just using that as a prompt for the creativity. You can continue to write from a children's perspective, or you can use that prompt to write something completely different. But they're taken from books or pieces of writing that have a children's perspective in them. So, coming up is your first one, and I'm going to give you 1 minute, just 1 minute, and just write whatever you can in that 1 minute, pen to paper, just keep going. So, the first prompt is, inside the tool shed, he soon found exactly what he needed. Inside the tool shed, he soon found exactly what he needed. I've popped that into the comments section so you can Sorry, I haven't copied that exactly right. What did he find in the tool shed? What was it that he needed? Where was he going to take it? Pen to paper, just keep writing. And do pop anything in the comment section that you think you'd like to share, that you think is particularly interesting, that you're particularly pleased with. Maybe a few more seconds. Okay. Your next prompt. Just keep holding my hand. Don't let go. Just keep holding my hand. Don't let go. Who's holding whose hand? Why is it important they don't let go? Just keep writing. Some good comments coming in here. Oh, we're keeping on the track with Jeremy James, with Devika. Thank you very much. Apparently Jeremy James found the old camera that Daddy used on holiday a few years ago. I'm going to use it to take a picture of the elephant. That's clever. I like this. Building a story between the different prompts. Slightly concerned. Pratima's said that exactly what he needed from the tool shed was a hammer, a saw and a nail. Slightly concerned about what's going to happen with those. I don't know. Could just be putting up a shelf. Maybe I'm catastrophizing. Just a few more seconds on that one. Just keep holding my hand. Don't let go. Okay. Your next one. The police officer opened the passenger door and told me to get in. The police officer opened the passenger door and told me to get in. The police officer opened the passenger door and told me to get in. Ah, I like this. So Shiv's posted something that she's written about walking around a fairground, and I know, because I know Shiv, that she has written from the perspective of her own son, which is very lovely. Hi, Ridan, if you're there. A few more seconds on that one. The police officer opened the passenger door and told me to get in. Oh, I'm liking this, Pratima. There's a green slimy thing on the floor. I mean, I think, generally speaking, that's not good. Okay. Next prompt. Her words came out differently when she was angry. Her words came out differently when she was angry. Pen to paper, just keep writing. How are the words different? Why is she angry? Who is she? Who are we looking at this person from the perspective of? Keep forgetting to hit the timer. So you've got slightly longer than a minute now. I love this. There we go. You're building an actual story. I want this submitted afterwards, by the way. If you'll carry on using these prompts to write a single story about Jeremy James and the elephant, I expect this to come in as a submission to Dadva, so we can publish it. Maybe we'll have a kid's short story on our hands. Don't forget to also keep telling me what it is that you're drinking. Tea, coffee, chai, smoothie. Okay. Just a few more seconds to go. Her words came out differently when she was angry. Okay, pens up. Next prompt. Grown-ups don't look like grown-ups on the inside. Grown-ups don't look like grown-ups on the inside. Last couple of seconds. Okay, that's your minute up. I'll just give you the full minute to just contemplate that one. Next prompt. He was being very brave. He was being very brave. Oh, sorry if you heard that. That was my timer beeping, but that is your minute up. Pens up on that one. He was being very brave. There are some really, really different perspectives coming through in terms of what people are putting on the chat and they're getting from these prompts. Raghav, excellent, thank you. Raghav's referencing the children's book that we have published through Dadva called Superfinger. Check it out. That's a kid's book written by a kid. It is truly excellent and honestly puts all of us adult writers to shame. It was written by a young man that we had the privilege of working with. The book's called Superfinger. Oh, I love that. It's really, really evocative, Devika. She would get louder and her eyes would blow up really big like balloons and she'd stare at me until I cried and cried. But Mummy wasn't like that today. She was tired, not angry, not at me. I really like that. It really paints a picture. Oh, and Shiv, yours has like really got me in the feels. Really descriptive and really, really lovely. Oh, the elephant's back. Excellent, thank you. Please do keep posting in the comments. I think it's really nice. It's really nice for me to see what you're doing with the prompts, but also really, I think, nice for for you to see what each other is getting out of these prompts and how you're channeling that creativity. So, okay, next prompt coming up. A very, very, very old man. A very, very, very old man. Okay, it's your minute up on that one. I've actually had Shiv, you're right. I talked about your thing and then I didn't read it out. Should I read it out? It's good. I feel like I'm doing like bedtime stories, except it's first thing on a Sunday morning. So let's read the one. I would often see Mummy curled up on the floor, rocking back and forth, unable to help me put my clothes on or brush my teeth. Why does she seem so sad? She wasn't strong like I thought she would be. Oh. You told us so much in that short piece of writing, Shiv. I really love it. That's really nice. Oh, standing on the edge of the cliff top. What was he to do? There was a head bobbing up and down in the choppy waves below. Oh, we're painting some good pictures, people. Raghav, our resident dentist, one of our resident dentists, I'm using a professional perspective here. He was being very brave, Mummy said at the dinner table. He never liked going to the dentist, but he had a filling today and we had no tears. Brave boy, very brave boy. Some really, really lovely bits of writing being posted here. Thank you so much, and do keep posting them. There we go. Seriously, I want this all stitched together as an elephant-based story that we can potentially publish. I love it. Okay. Everyone ready for the next prompt? Do you think somebody lives here? Do you think somebody lives here? Okay, what's your time on that one? It's funny when I call in to do these workshops on a Sunday, when I kind of come in and watch them as a participant. Minute feels like a really long time when you're sat there with your pen or your pencil on the piece of paper. Now I'm on the other side reading out the prompts and waiting. The time, like the time feels completely different. It feels like no time at all when you're writing, and it feels like about 5 years when you're sat here waiting for that minute to pass. So let's see what we've got. Oh, a very, very, very old man turned up at the neighbour's doorstep this morning. He had a bunch of flowers in his right hand and was trembling whilst reaching for the doorbell with his left. So nice, very descriptive, but probably inadvisable in the current situation. I think the current advice is still not to go to other people's households, certainly here in the UK. So I hope you're writing about something that was pre-lockdown or potentially set in Australia. Oh, I like this. He looked like a tortoise, top lip hanging over his bottom, his eyes being witness to old friends' deaths, to the birth of a new country. Oh, Harsha, you told us so much. There's so much anticipation in that sentence that you've written. You've told us so much about the past of this person, this very, very, very old man. But you're also setting the scene for something completely brand new. I really like that. That is really, really nice. So nice. Do you think somebody lives here? Just then the door creaked open, and there stood an old lady with gaunt eyes and a frail frame. She burst into tears. This is great stuff. I'm really glad that these little children's voices from books are sparking so much creativity in all of you. It's really, really lovely. Okay, this is the final short prompt, and again, you'll have a minute to keep writing. The final prompt is: the deer stood still. The deer stood still. Okay, that's your minute on that one. Please do copy and paste or type in what you've been writing into the comment section. Got one from Ella saying the cottage is ramshackled, dust everywhere, no sign of anybody, but the kettle is just boiling. There's a lot going on there. Place is empty, dust everywhere, doesn't look like anybody's there. Why is the kettle boiling? Oh, very, very different take on the very, very old man, I think, here is what we're getting from Shiv. Or the deer, no, the deer I see. He looked at me and we were in this sudden standoff. I'm sure he was just as afraid as I, but in this moment we both contemplated who could get out of this situation faster. I like that. I wanted to run, but legs stayed planted firmly. I could see the fear in his eyes too, but I couldn't rationalise. Why can't I be braver? That's interesting. Sort of harking back to the point earlier about being brave, kind of like. Oh, very different one here. It was late at night and the driver had no time to swerve. A lot of potential in that one. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you another prompt, slightly longer, and then I'm going to give you about 5 minutes actually to write. So the longest one. So I'm going to, now that you've got the juices flowing, some really excellent stuff coming through on the comments here. I can see that everyone is really switched on this morning. Or had your Weetabix. Other cereals are available. I'm going to read you something that's a tiny bit longer, maybe sets you up for something else. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to just write whatever comes to mind. And do keep posting in the comments section. Let me know and let the others see what it is that you're writing, what inspiration you're getting from these children's voices. So here we go. I'll read this next one. Children, as I have said, use back ways and hidden tracks while adults take roads and official paths. We went off the road, took a shortcut that led us through some fields, then into the extensive abandoned gardens of a rich man's crumbling house. I'm going to read that one more time. Children, as I have said, use back ways and hidden tracks, while adults take roads and official paths. We went off the road, took a shortcut that led us through some fields, then into the extensive abandoned gardens of a rich man's crumbling house. I'm going to say 5 minutes now. Let's just keep writing. And I will type that into the comments box. Just about halfway through the 5 minutes now. Just going to read the extract one more time. Children, as I have said, use back ways and hidden tracks, while adults take roads and official paths. We went off the road, took a shortcut that led us through some fields and into the extensive gardens of a rich man's crumbling house. Okay, that's your 5 minutes up. Please do post in the comment section anything, a particular phrase, little stretch of writing that you're particularly pleased about putting down in the last 5 minutes or so. I'd really like to see what you've got from that prompt. And just while I'm waiting for some of you to do that. So the first book, just to let you know, so the excerpt about the elephant is from a book actually called Elephants Don't Sit on Cars. It's a bit tricky to get hold of because of the age of it. Like I said, it was published in 1977, before even I was born. But this is the book. If you are somebody with children, I do recommend it. It's quite a fun little book, even though it's quite a few years old, and it is all told from the perspective of this boy called Jeremy James. And I think it's really lovely how you get to see things from the perspective of the child. And it's one of those things where if I'm having a bad day, actually, it's quite a nice thing to just pick up and just read a few pages about Jeremy James and his adventures, and it sort of gives you a nice happy feeling. And then some of the other prompts on that final excerpt that I just read is taken from this book by Neil Gaiman called The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I queued for a long time with this book because it says there's a signed copy. That's a bat. He drew me a bat. It's controversial in current circumstances. But this is Neil Gaiman. If anybody's ever read any Neil Gaiman before, so Neil Gaiman is very famous for writing things such as Stardust. So many people would have seen the film, but the book on which it's based, Stardust. Lots of other things. Neverwhere, one of my favourites of his. And this book is quite interesting because it's not necessarily a children's book. Neil Gaiman, for any of you who read him and who know, can often write about very dark things. And so there's lots of layers in here. But generally speaking, the perspective that the whole book takes is that of a child and of a young boy. And there's an element of fantasy and adventure. But I think you get there's a lot of depth in seeing things through the eyes of this young boy who's going through something of an adventure. So I do recommend this book as well, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, by Neil Gaiman. I know we can't get to libraries at the moment, but a lot of libraries do ebook collections, or you can order from a local bookshop or something like that. Those are where that's where I got my inspiration from this morning. So we've got a few people starting to post. So what I will do is I will just read out what some of you have been inspired to put down today. This is lovely. We've gone Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe here. We've gone to Narnia. And there we saw them, the dinosaurs, Aslan and the beavers, Falcor flying up high in the sky, smiling. They ran free from the pages of human imagination. They just were. I really like that, Derika. Thank you. And Pratima's painting a picture of the house. So we've gone into the garden of this house. Overgrown nettles sprawled at the side of the alpine garden, and rampant ivy climbed the drain pipes of the forlorn house. It's really lovely. That's really evocative. Really painting a picture. I can see that in my mind, which is really nice. A little bit more. Hearing our footsteps, the mice scurried up the cobwebbed wooden staircase. The news was being read on Radio 4. Oh, I like that. This is very good. So I hope that in this session today, you've been able to see that creative inspiration can come from all sorts of different perspectives, and children's voices is just one of those, and providing the perspective of a child, or showing us how a child might see or perceive something, how they might describe something, can give a different angle to creativity, and the words that we put down on the page, and our creative outputs. I'm personally inspired by some of the writing that's been put down here in the comment section. Please do keep popping them in for the next couple of minutes. So those of you who might not know, might be new, might be the first time you've come to one of these sessions. So Tattva is sort of a writers network, a writing network, and we've really taken to the lockdown situation to try and generate content to keep conversations going and to keep creativity flowing and to keep telling stories. That's what we're about. We're about telling authentic stories and providing perspectives that might not be available elsewhere. And we've really pushed ourselves to do that during this lockdown situation when we can't all interact with each other as normal. And your next installment of that creative output can be found tomorrow evening. So tomorrow evening we have our next of our sort of in conversation sessions. It's a video cast. 7 p.m. tomorrow. You just come back to this page on Facebook, and that's where you'll be able to find it. And the topic for tomorrow's video cast discussion is grieving in isolation. Very timely, very poignant. There are a lot of people. I mean, I can name you off the top of my head at least a handful of people that I know who have personally had to deal with grief and loss during this period of time when we're often isolated from those who are our natural support network. And so that's going to be, I think, a very timely, a very important discussion. And it will be chaired by Shivani Bala, who is a member of our network, is a mentor on our authorship program, and has also been participating. You'll be able to see in the comments today. So please do come back at 7 p.m. tomorrow to listen to that video cast, and hopefully that conversation can give us all something positive and constructive to hold on to in these very strange times that we find ourselves in. You can also go back and see recordings of previous sessions that we've run. So these creative writing sessions happen every Sunday at 10 a.m. We've also recently started doing a critical writing series that happens at 10 o'clock on a Saturday, and all of that content is left up there. I'm just going to answer sort of a final query before we head off. So Rax has asked a question for any tips when the words are just not flowing. Well, I mean, I think any of us who've done any writing at all will know that sometimes writer's block is just there, and I think people have different ways of dealing with it. I don't necessarily think that I have a definitive answer, but I'd say that don't force it. You know, maybe go away, leave the writing for a while, come back, maybe pick a different section to do something on, maybe read something that gives you inspiration. Those are just some of the things that I do when I'm sat there faced with writer's block. I would say if people have any suggestions, if you're somebody who's got a particular way that you deal with when the words aren't flowing, when that writer's block just won't shift, pop them up, pop them as a comment on here. Let Rax know what you do to see if that can help him and his writing flow. But I'll think about it, Rax. If I come up with anything better, then I shall pop it on the Duffer page for you to look at later on. But I'd say don't force yourself. Don't sit there and stare at the page or stare at the screen for too long trying to find that next perfect word. And maybe sometimes that's the thing, is it doesn't need to be perfect. Maybe you just need to put out everything, even though you think this is not the final thing. Just put the words down on the page, because they might lead you to what the words actually need to be in the end. So I think we'll draw the session to a close now. Thank you all so much for giving up a chunk of your Sunday morning. It's a lovely sunny Sunday morning where I am. I hope that the sun's shining where you are too. Go away, read some children's books, read some children's voices, find some inspiration. Don't forget to come back here 7 p.m. tomorrow for our next video cast, and again 10 o'clock next Sunday morning for another creative writing session. And have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.